The future of Battlefield 2042 remains uncertain for a lot of folks. Although EA has insisted that they're going to support Battlefield 2042 for the long term, it's hard to take them at their word, given EA's past history of cutting a game's live service element short. It happened with Battlefield 5. It happened with Star Wars Battlefront 2. Just as things were ramping up, they decided, all right, we've supported this game enough. And of course, there's the infamous story of Anthem, where just as 2.0 was in development, EA decided, nah, let's just scrap it. And so with Battlefield 2042, we don't know where it's gonna end up. And today's story deals with one report stating that EA is pretty much ready to abandon ship after roughly a year's worth of content. And then the other side of the story is that EA is denying these claims. But before we get into that, the current state of Battlefield 2042, well, today, June 9th, 2022, saw the release of Battlefield 2042 Season 1 0 Hour, which you may recall was delayed from early 2022 to summer of 2022. But at long last, Season 1 is finally out. It's very unusual for a live service to take this long for its first season. And you can see that people have been curious about this, as looking at Steam's player count, the 24-hour peak is close to 12,000 right now, and as of the recording of this video, roughly 8,500 players are playing, which is significantly higher than the usual low 2,000s average player count. As for whether this player count will be retained in the long term, or whether we'll see these numbers dip back down to the low 2000s to an untenable amount, remains to be seen. But I personally suspect that Season 1 won't be enough to retain players at this level, but I guess we'll see. People are playing Season 1 right now. No doubt they'll see how much this season is added to the game, and whether it's indicative of a brighter future or if it's indicative of what many have suspected. Now, if the latest report is to be believed, it would seem as though EA's confidence in Battlefield 2042 has been tested. The headline here from Video Games Chronicle reads, Battlefield 2042 is reportedly in abandoned ship mode as EA switches focus to the next series entry. This was reported by Giant Bomb, more specifically video game journalist Jeff Grubb, who has a number of sources, insider sources within the industry, who have intimated to him quite a bit of information about certain behind-the-scenes goings-ons. He's not always been right, so keep that in mind. But according to him, speaking on his premium Giant Bomb show, Grub Snacks, here's what he said about what's going on behind the scenes. This game is basically down to a skeleton crew. It's down to like the bare bones, and those people are specifically just working on the promised additional seasons that the game needs to meet the requirements of the high-end version that it sold. He described the situation as abandoned ship time. Here's the thing, going by the rate at which content is releasing for Battlefield 2042, which is very infrequently, especially if you look at past entries and how often they would release content every month or every couple of months. Compared to that, Battlefield 2042 is a complete wasteland, and it just feels like this game is ramping up way too slowly. And for many, it has felt like there is this bare bones skeleton crew working on this game. While I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, it certainly hasn't felt like the game has DICE's full force behind it. It does feel like this game is just kind of chugging along. As for what Jeff Grubb claims EA has committed to, it's apparently releasing 4 seasons of live service content for Battlefield 2042 over the course of a year. So I guess over the course of the next 12 months, with Season 1 having released today, Season 2, according to the roadmap that EA put out, will launch sometime after August. And assuming every season lasts roughly 4 months, then Season 4 would end roughly in late 2023. And what Jeff Grubb is saying is basically after that, we can expect Battlefield 2042 development to ramp down, its live service elements to ramp down. Grubb continued, the skeleton crew is working to pump that stuff out the fastest and the cheapest it possibly can. He claims that EA and DICE basically kind of want to be done with it. They want to meet the bare minimum in terms of their obligations towards this game and then jump ship as it sinks. The main reason for this, and assuming what Jeff Grubb is reporting here is true, then this makes sense, is that EA is currently in pre-production for the next Battlefield game, and given the large task of developing a brand new game in the Battlefield series, it wouldn't surprise me at all if the majority of DICE is already beginning to shift towards whatever the next Battlefield game might be. Jeff Grubb then concluded with, "They're doing this to move everyone on the new Battlefield as fast as possible. The real core crew of Battlefield developers are already working on that." This is about how I personally expected all of this to play out. I don't know if that's actually how it's happening. Jeff Grubb is claiming this, but EA is saying, no, that's not true. We are committed for the long term. EA has denied Grubb's claims, according to a statement that EA provided to Video Games Chronicle, stating, "This is untrue. There's a significant team across studios focused on evolving and improving the Battlefield 2042 experience for our players, and at the heart of that is our team at DICE. We are committed to the future of Battlefield 2042, and our area's focus for the game, based on what we have heard from our players, was laid out in our recent development update that you can read here." Referring to this big blog post on the official EA and Battlefield 2042 website, you can find a link to a video that provides an update on things that they're working on, and on the blog post itself, you can see some of the changes they've made to maps, adding additional obstacles for cover, and changing the visual slightly here and there, adding some extra bits of debris and whatnot. That's kind of the general gist of the changes for the maps, as well as elements of layout to just help the design and help gameplay along. And then past that, they're working on adjusting certain modes like Breakthrough. They quote-unquote nerfed the mode from 128 players to 64 players, claiming that that would make things more tactical. And then Hazard Zone, they've just decided to cease development. And then as far as specialists go, they're trying to adjust the appearance of some of them and re-record lines so that they're less goofy and more in line with the dreary environmental cataclysm setting that Battlefield 2042 sets itself up to be. They're adjusting some animations here and there. And then there's the new content that is coming with Season 1. But do keep in mind that Battlefield fans have been quick to criticize the current roadmap because it just doesn't feel substantial enough. It doesn't come close to the consistent and amount of content release that we saw with past Battlefield entries. With Season 1, we're getting a new map, new specialists, new weapons, new vehicles, new battle pass, more weekly missions, more portal feature experiences, more community spotlights. But in the same time period that Battlefield 2042 has been out, past entries just got way more content around this time. So this roadmap doesn't necessarily paint a confident picture that the full force of DICE is behind this and that they're fully committed to the long-term future of this game, or that this game won't die off unceremoniously. EA also doesn't provide a whole lot of details. They say there's a significant team working on Battlefield 2042 still, but they don't really detail exactly how much of the team of DICE is still focused on the game versus how many have moved on. What Jeff Grubb is claiming is that the majority have moved on and that there's a skeleton crew, a smaller team that's just kind of doing the bare minimum obligations for this game. EA doesn't necessarily refute and disprove what Jeff Grubb is saying. They're just kind of reiterating what they've already said. We're still working on this game and we're committed to continuing to work on this game. But for how long is the question. It just doesn't feel like this game is being bolstered at a fast enough rate to maintain player numbers like, almost 12,000 players, 24-hour peak. And then scaling back on Breakthrough, reducing it from 128 players to 64 players. Some argue that's actually a positive thing, but it is very much a reduction of a feature to make up for flaws rather than anything really additive. And same thing goes with winding down development on Hazard Zone, which Battlefield 2042 marketed to hell and back as almost like a flagship mode. This is winding down in its development, basically Battlefield 2042's take on Battle Royale. That didn't turn out well, so it just feels like the game's gotten more feature incomplete over the course of months. But with the release of Season 1, there's some new content added, and I guess we'll see and hear over the course of the next week and month how people feel about Season 1 ultimately, and whether it ultimately bolsters confidence or bolsters pessimism surrounding its future. Now, with all that said, I'm not going to claim to know who's right and who's wrong. Jeff Grubb has been wrong in the past, but he's also been right quite a few times. EA, I don't know if they're lying or not. They have certainly lied quite a few times in the past, so they're certainly just less trustworthy, but if they're coming out to issue a statement denying something, then maybe there's some merit to it. Now, Jeff Grubb did catch wind of EA's response and did comment on that, tweeting the following on June 8th, 2022. On Grubsnacks today, I said that Battlefield is down to a skeleton crew that is trying to meet its DLC obligations. EA has reached out to say this is untrue. My position for these things is consistent. If you hear two sides of a story about what is happening, look for the space where both things are true. I'll talk about this more on an upcoming Morning Mess on Giant Bomb so that I can also get their statement on the air. That'd be Jeff Grubb's YouTube channel. I checked and he still hasn't uploaded anything on this front, so we'll wait and see what he has to say or what he has to add. Even if EA this time is telling the truth, this is the hole that they've dug themselves into. They've built such a high level of distrust that people are just not going to believe EA. Even if this time they're telling the truth, they've cried wolf so many times that people are just going to be like, yeah, okay, EA, whatever you say. After what happened with Anthem, after all the lies you've told, after all of the ways you've tried to misdirect from issues like loot boxes, which EA continues to label as surprise mechanics and yada, 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 it's like, of all entities to trust, EA is bottom of the barrel. No matter how confident EA wants to seem about the future of a game, there's always going to be a seed of doubt because of how EA has conducted itself over the past number of years. With all said and done, I suppose we'll see what happens. I suppose time will tell how Battlefield 2042's life will play out. Will it be an Anthem type of situation, or will it manage to make some kind of comeback? I don't know. We'll see. But that's one man's take. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on Jeff Grubb's report and EA coming out with a denial of that report. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.